Welcome into a streaming edition of KC Sports Tonight. Jared Koller here, joined by a special guest. You know him as Brad Stephens, KC5 news anchor that you watch in the evenings for many years now. Or if you're a loyal high school football fan, if you're a Friday Night Blitz fan, you know Brad is the guy who many people have been compared to week after week. Or should I say a younger version of Brad Stephens.
That's right.
has been compared to.
You always make me laugh.
Yeah.
10 o'clock news.
For those that don't watch high school football coverage, normally when I see a guy break off like an 80-yard touchdown run, at least once every couple weeks I try to say, there goes, Bob Smith looking like a young Brad Stephens. I can't confirm if young Brad Stephens was actually that fast, but it's a nice legend.
Hey, I had some wheels.
Yeah.
They called me back in the day, a long time ago. This is going back to Ord, Nebraska.
Shout out.
Population 2,400. Now it's 2,200. Crazy Legs Stephens. They
Wow.
called me on the football field a long time
So
ago.
it's not wrong, folks. So all the high school football players that watch this, it's not a slight when I say you're looking like a young Brad Stephens. All right, that is a compliment to bestow upon youth across the city. So yes, more known as a KC5 news anchor here since 2005.
Yeah,
and of course in that time, and Brad, you've covered NCAA titles, now Super Bowls, World Series. It's been a great run, and we have you to thank. Clearly, that's what
surely turn this
around.
Check to see what's in your glass here in a second.
So what we have coming up here over the next few minutes, we're basically going to go through what I put on the screen as the Stephens era, starting with the Chiefs, Royals, college, and we'll end with some Nebraska love as we kind of look back on Brad's time here as a. Go ahead.
Hey, Jared. So when I started looking back. I moved here. My wife and we moved here, and my family moved here in 2005, and Kansas City has just been. We wanted to come to Kansas City. We wanted to come to the Kansas City area, and this has just been such a great place to raise our kids. Both my kids graduated from the University of Kansas. Sorry to my Missouri friends. I tried to get my son to look into the University of Missouri Journalism School. I was like, dude, that's the best journalism school around. Come on.
Didn't hold me too far back.
KU's got a good program too as well. But oh my gosh, when I start looking back at what the Chiefs and Royals were doing in 2005.
Yeah.
Wow, did I get here at a rock bottom time for both franchises. I mean, I went back and I was just looking at it. And it was like, oh, that was not 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those were some scary seasons for both Chiefs and Royals.
Yeah, it's interesting because Brad's been here now a while, raised his family here.
Almost 19 years now. 19 years in October.
2 decades, which is just awesome. And so you've seen a lot, and that's where I'm from here, Kansas City. Lived most of my life, with the exception of 2 years in Nebraska. I've lived in at least the state of Missouri my whole life. So we have some perspective here, and let's start with those Chiefs, who I put it as the roller coaster era before Andy Reid, because there's some down times. There was some highs. You came in here on the tail end of the Dick Vermeil era.
Yeah, last year of Dick Vermeil.
Yep. And then Herm Edwards, and Herm Edwards took him to the playoffs. Yep. Todd Haley took him to the playoffs one year. But there was definite highs and lows. What do you remember about the Chiefs and Arrowhead and football in this town before Andy Reid came?
It was really easy to go to a Chiefs game. Let me tell you a story about when we do, every year KCTV5 does Project Warmth, where we team up with Salvation Army, and we ask you, the viewer, to go through your closets and look for gently used coats, and anything that somebody would need in the cold months of Kansas City. You know how Project Warmth works. So I think it was, I'm looking at my notes here, I think this was around 2008 when the Chiefs were 2-14.
Yeah.
Okay, so for Project Warmth, we were asking people, we had so many, for whatever reasons, I don't know if this was because the Chiefs were on KCTV5 at that point, we're a CBS affiliate. I don't know if we had access to just a ton of tickets, but they sent me out for Project Warmth. If you gave a bag of clothing, and we broadcasted this during the Project Warmth event, we would give you 2 free Chiefs tickets. I had a stack of Chiefs tickets. I'm not kidding. At least 300 tickets.
Oh my gosh.
We couldn't give those away. Couldn't give free tickets away to a Chiefs game. I don't even remember. I don't know if it was the Colts or whoever they were playing. But, I mean, that just takes you back to an era. Think about what we are now living in here in Kansas City. This team isn't just isn't just popular in Kansas and Missouri and the Midwest. This is an internationally beloved team. So my wife and I were in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina about 8 months ago, and
Nice.
we're just shopping at some we're looking for swimming suits and just stuff you look for, cheap places to go buy stuff on the beach. And I see this beautiful beach towel. It's a Patrick Mahomes beach towel.
Of course.
I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay. And then I look over and I see there's Chiefs helmets, there's bling, there's Chiefs gear. And so I go up to the guy who was running the shop and I said, oh, are you from Kansas City? You don't have any other NFL stuff up. They had a few Packers and Cowboys things, but I mean, literally a wall of Chiefs stuff. And not just little memorabilia. I mean,
Big
Kelsey
stuff,
jerseys, Mahomes jerseys, helmets. And I said, you must be from Kansas City. And he's like, no. He goes, I'm a businessman. He goes, the Kansas City Chiefs are the most popular thing in America right now. He said, I can't keep this stuff. He goes, this stuff flies off the wall. That was in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, 8 months ago or so. I was blown away at the Chiefs' popularity there. And so it just goes to show you where we've been and where we are now. And, oh, my gosh. I mean, the Todd Haley years. Those are some fun years to remember.
Had that 1 year peak where they did really well, and then outside of that, it was just it
was odd, and that was Haley and Pioli, right?
Right, and then Romeo Crennel for 1 year.
Romeo Crennel for 1 year. I remember that.
Because Pioli fired Haley, and it wasn't as much about the losses as much about how it wasn't a fun team. Like they had some talented players. Like in one of the years they went like 2-14, 4-12. They had like 9 Pro Bowlers or something crazy. They had talent, but just not a together team.
It wasn't a functioning unit back then.
Just didn't work. And now we're spoiled. It's very much America's team as far as that the Chiefs get all the big games. And Brad, that's why I think it's unique for people that have been here for a couple decades like us and thinking, I remember when all I wanted was Kansas City to be mentioned on the national scale, like to be
we were
recognized.
Never on the Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, never, ever.
Noon games. And understandably so. Listen, that Kansas City's doesn't have the New York market, and the teams weren't good enough, and that's where the highlight of my summer always was seeing the Royals like all-star game. The guy tips their cap, and Mike Sweeney never even got into the game, but hey, for that moment, hey, the whole world was watching
celebrate
that. And so now for the Chiefs to take it where like there's a lot of people across the country that are tired of hearing about the Chiefs, which is
absolutely, and I love that.
Yeah. I do too, because there were years where nobody was hearing anything about the Chiefs.
Where are you from? Kansas City. Oh, that's cute. You have a professional sports team called the Chiefs. How are they doing? It was you were pitied almost for being a Chiefs fan. And oh my gosh.
And pitied, but also felt bad in the sense that when they were good, the way they lost was just heartbreaking, in dating back to even before, you and I can remember the 90s teams, but even that 03 team that lost without punting. And then when they make the playoffs with Haley and Edwards, they get bounced early. And so it's nice that it turned around in the way that it did, but it wasn't instant success.
Oh, no.
What do you remember about that transition time between when Alex Smith was the quarterback? So Andy Reid had created a winner instantaneously. If you remember, he started like 9-0.
Right.
And then,
that's right.
They lost that playoff game where they had a 38-10 lead at Indianapolis.
I remember that game like it was yesterday. I can remember exactly where I watched that game, and that is one of the most frustrating games.
Shocking. To have that lead in the third
seen.
quarter. Andrew Luck recovers his own fumble, and they even had a chance to win it. Dwayne Bowe caught the ball, but he kind of stepped out of bounds. Then the next year, they didn't make the playoffs. So it wasn't like Andy Reid came in here and it was instantaneous success. He changed the culture immediately, but it took them a couple years to get their footing. Then they win a playoff game. Then they get rolling, and then it's the Mahomes era. But
it just seemed to be organizational.
Yeah,
Jared. It was Andy Reid was the linchpin, and he was that coach that the Hunt family had been looking for, somebody, a superstar coach. Now, he left Philadelphia. He was not considered a superstar by the Eagles fans when he left, but, do they miss him now?
I think so. And that's
look at the Super Bowl rings he has.
Yeah, the fact that he was available and in the way his legacy, he was penalized for being good in the regular season, right? Because he made 5 conference championship games, and then he comes to Kansas City, a place where Brad, from 1994 to 2014, the city hadn't seen a single playoff win from the Chiefs or Royals.
Right.
And so for them to get somebody that could at least get that far, we didn't – I wasn't saying, oh, great, Andy Reid's here, now the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. I was just like, oh, great, Andy Reid's here. Now they can hopefully win a playoff game. That's the bar. And now, well, Brad, if they don't make the Super Bowl, it's like, is this a failure?
Everyone's disappointed. Yeah, and it's like,
which I get, but you know,
it's the price of success.
Yeah,
is what it is. And you know, as you watch pro sports franchises and college teams, you realize that once you make it to the top, say you win a national championship, you win a Super Bowl, it is so hard for an organization to keep that grind going, and to keep that winning attitude going. It's just so hard, and Kansas City has done that, and I think it's all because of Brett Veach and Andy Reid.
Sure.
I mean, you know, and well, hold on, and this guy called
top,
Patrick
right,
Mahomes
for bringing him, for bringing it. That's where it starts, because without Brett Veach and Andy Reid, is there Patrick Mahomes? No, but no, I mean, there's going to come a time when the Chiefs aren't as dominant as they are, just like every dynasty. You know, the Patriots.
Yeah.
Little tease for the end of the show. At one point in time, Nebraska was like the Chiefs of the college football world.
Oh,
and
man.
you know
you got to bring up a painful subject now.
I'm bringing up a positive subject that in the 90s is a pretty good time, and so that's just where it's like, I'm sure, Brad, if you could go back to the 90s and tell your Husker self then, your Husker fans then, hey, enjoy this. It's similar to hopefully now that you're in this Chiefs era of dominance, you can say, hey, enjoy this, because there will come a time when Patrick Mahomes is 50 years old and maybe he's not playing quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't want to think about that time, but thinking about that, at least in that aspect, creates more appreciation for now. So
what the saying is, you know, stop and smell the roses.
Yeah.
Chiefs fans, stop and smell the roses, because it doesn't, you know, it doesn't get any better than this.
Yeah.
We are at the top of the mountain, but you know, there's the bottom of the mountain too, and it's so, like I said, it's so hard to stay at the top. So yeah, I mean, to draw that, you know, I was born and raised in Nebraska, graduated from the University of Nebraska. So I'm a diehard by birth fan. I remember the 1971 national championship with Johnny Rodgers. I lived and worked in Lincoln and Omaha during the 90s, just during that unbelievable run. And I do remember right after Nebraska beat Tennessee in the 1997 national championship, and then shared the national championship with Michigan that year because Scott Frost, you know, encouraged the nation to
at least to
help
share.
Vote. That was Tom Osborne's last year.
Yep.
And I'll never forget thinking so they won in 95 or 94, 95, and 97.
Yep.
And I'll never forget at that time in 1997 when they beat Tennessee, and I thought, I've been to the mountaintop as a Nebraska fan. It'll never get any better than this. It can't.
Yeah.
And there'll probably be some rough times ahead. And I had no idea that it was, you know, it's
right.
Since that time, it's just been hilarious for anyone who's not a Nebraska Cornhusker fan to watch what happens, to see how we lose, because we've invented new ways of losing in college football. So no, I look back at that, but I tell people, I will tell Chiefs fans, enjoy it. Whether Nebraska ever wins again, I have no idea. I hope they will, but maybe they won't. But I do have that. I was at the top of the mountain. I still wear my Nebraska jerseys proudly because I was there and I watched national championships, just like Chiefs fans out there. 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, you're going to look back on this period right now and you're going to say to yourself, I was there. Exactly. I was at Arrowhead Stadium. I was in the Ice Bowl, or not the Ice Bowl, but the Ice game.
Dolphins game, yeah.
There's so many fun and positive memories that I just
some
enjoy
of the
it now.
All-time greats with Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Chris Jones. And so I think it's hard in the moment, you know, when you're watching a game and you want them to do better, and maybe they're being dumb for a quarter or two. But yeah, thinking big picture as much as we can here in Kansas City, I think will create, you know, more happiness that I think is rightful at this moment of time. All right, the other winning team here in the last decade. Because it's about a decade ago when the Royals really flipped the switch in 2014. People forget, in July, the Royals in 2014 were 2 games below 500. They were 48-50. And then they went on a 7-game winning streak. Then they went on another 7-game winning streak, and they get in the playoffs for the first time in 29 years, Brad. And so that's where, even you growing up in Nebraska, you know, you knew the Royals in their heyday in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And
growing up in Ord, Nebraska.
Yeah.
Listening to AM radio at that time, the Royals radio network.
Yeah,
that was the only game I could get. So to listen to the Royals and listen to Frank, Fred White,
and Denny Matthews.
And Denny.
Yeah.
So Fred and Denny. I grew up with that, and my first pro baseball game was here at Kauffman Stadium, and I just thought it was so cool as a kid from Nebraska to come to the big city of Kansas City and see a Royals game. But Dayton, for me getting here, I mean, oh my gosh, the Royals were terrible. I mean, I wrote this down. I wanted to make sure I got it right. But the 2005 Royals, 106 losses that year,
great.
Most losses in franchise history. 06, they lose 100 games. And then 07, that's the year that Dayton Moore came in.
Yep,
and again, going back to, you create the parallels between the Chiefs and the Royals and both their stunning rise. You take a look back at what was happening organizationally. And with the Chiefs, it was, Andy Reid, obviously, the linchpin of their success. And then Dayton Moore came in, and boy, he just changed everything.
Yeah.
And
not immediately, because in baseball it's like Andy
slow.
Reid traded for Alex Smith right away, and that made a difference.
Right.
Baseball, Dayton Moore's first draft pick, Mike Moustakas, out of high school. Then Eric Hosmer out of high school. And, then you move Alex Gordon from a failed third baseman to a Gold Glove left fielder. It took some time.
Oh, years.
Similar to how Andy Reid didn't have the playoff success in the first couple of years, Dayton Moore didn't have playoff or regular season success for a number of years, to the point where, a lot of people were wondering if this was going to work, even in 2014 when he did finally break through. But you're right, 2013 was that first winning season, and I think it's easy to forget what kind of organization Dayton took over, in the sense that they wouldn't spend any money for free agents in Latin America, in the draft. They just were bereft of talent, of a direction. And
I remember, Jared, I remember bringing my dad, my dad was a huge baseball fan. And so any chance he got to go to a high school baseball game, college, and then to go to an MLB game was like icing on the cake for my dad. And I remember I took him to the very first Royals game, and that would have been in 05. And when we moved here, and so I take my dad into the game, and he was like, "Oh boy, we really got good parking spaces." And I was like, "Yeah." We go to the game, and he's like, "Oh, we have really good seats." And I was like, "Dad, these seats didn't cost very much, and we do have good seats." And then leaving the game, he was like, "Oh, we better get out of here early, because it's going to take us a long time to get out of the stadium and fight the traffic." I mean, we were home like 10 minutes after the game ended. It was, I mean, and so how many Royals fans remember that?
Oh yeah,
the dearth.
Well, that's what
winning.
A generation was raised on. Going to the K for $5, getting in and out.
Go for the promotion.
Nobody being there. Exactly. You get a free hat. You get a free jersey. I still have a bunch of those, and you have a good time because it's baseball. But you understand that the Royals are bad. You're very aware of that, and so to change that culture, I don't think is easy. Because it's a decades-long culture.
No, and that's kind of what you think about what's happening now. With Matt Quatraro.
Yeah.
And he's really...
Sure, I mean...
He's rowing the boat now, and everybody's rowing the boat in the same direction. But, last year everyone was wondering, does this guy know what he's doing? But he didn't have anything to work with.
And that's where it's so hard to be patient in baseball. But that, in my opinion, the hardest sport to be patient, just because it takes so long for players to develop, and it's such a long season. But... the Royals were patient in sticking with Dayton Moore and sticking with Ned Yost, and then it culminated in one of the most improbable, enjoyable runs in 2014, where they won their first 8 games, including that wild card game at Kauffman Stadium. I was there for that and saw Salvador Perez hit the ball down the left field line. And, Brad, I remember not knowing how to feel, like legitimately, because in my life as a Kansas City kid, that was the first time in my living life, there you go, that I saw a playoff win from the Chiefs or Royals, literally, and I was like 20. And then, of course, they sweep the Angels, sweep the Orioles, and then go all the way, Game 7, 90 feet away against the Giants. And to me, that run was even more enjoyable than 2015 because there was no expectations.
You
were just playing with house
everything
money.
Was so fresh and new and different.
Yeah. And the energy.
The feeling of October baseball is so I was struck with that. Just because I hadn't lived in a city where playoff baseball was being played, and a lot of people in Kansas City hadn't experienced that for a long time either.
Years,
but man, October baseball,
It's
it
every
is such
night.
a different feel.
With Chiefs, there's so much build up to 3 hours. The Royals it's like, okay, you got today, you talk about, but then guess what? You got another game tomorrow, and then you got another game tomorrow, and it's one after the other, and that's why when baseball's good. Oh, you look forward. When baseball's bad, oh God, we got another game tomorrow. Oh, we got
and that's what's so fun now. This month of June has not been kind to our Royals, but
still in a playoff spot. But yeah,
they're still in third place.
Yeah.
I mean, the Twins have snuck up and caught them, which I think most everybody thought that the Twins. They had a tough start, but we realized that the Twins have a lot of talent.
Yeah.
But if the Royals, oh my gosh, I was so happy to see that I wasn't able to see any of it, but they squeaked one out against the A's today.
Yep, Freddie Fermin, Bobby Witt Jr. playing well, and so the hope is to get back to that Blue October one, because I think Royals fans think, hey, if you get in the playoffs, well, you're going to go to the World Series, so that's an unrealistic
We do have that history.
But that's all I know is that, hey, you just get in, you go on a magical run. So 2014 was so much fun, but then in 2015, it won the 14 games. All of them went down to the wire, in 8th, 9th, 10th.
Right.
They were close games, and the Royals somehow won every single close game. 15, they struggled. They lost more games in that 15 postseason run, but they still beat the Astros and come back, second straight year.
That was an amazing series with the Astros.
Second straight year the Royals faced an elimination when in the 8th inning they were down 4 runs. And they came back and beat the Astros. Then the Blue Jays, they came back and won that in 6 games. And then, of course, going to New York and winning that all. So finishing up on the Royals, how do you look back on that collective group, those collective memories, and the way this town really rallied in those 2 Blue Octobers, culminating in a parade that is still the most attended parade Kansas City has ever had, even passing the last 3 Chiefs parades?
Yeah, that parade was. I mean, now I was on the desk here at KCTV5, but broadcasting the parade and watching it with all of our viewers. And God, I wish I could have been out there. But it is still, that is such a high that as a Royals fan, I'm not sure you really ever come down
that
off
was the
that.
first. That was before the Chiefs renaissance, and
right.
And you didn't know at that point. We didn't know Patrick Mahomes would be the savior.
I had no idea.
You didn't know if the Royals would get back there. You didn't know if the Chiefs would get ever to that point. And the Royals have not, so now it's kind of, hey, and understand expectation. But at that moment in time, Brad, it's just, I felt the city was so innocent and so just joyful.
You know what it did? As I look back on that time, what you saw prior to that is you'd go to a Royals game and you'd look out in the stands and you would see these old tattered T-shirts and jerseys of former Royals players who hadn't played in a long time. Sure. And that year, you saw this renaissance of Royals fans that couldn't wait to get out and buy a new T-shirt, buy a new hat. They're like, oh my gosh, the Royals are good. And it became this. It was a citywide collective of just everyone feeling buoyant about how the Royals were playing. And the word community gets overused, but man, that baseball community expanded, and all of a sudden you had, my wife couldn't give a rip about sports. All of a sudden she's like, hey, I need a Royals hat.
Yeah,
I need a Royals jersey.
They're like, hey, Haas is cool.
She was like, is Alex Gordon playing tonight? And I'm like, what are you? Who are you? What do you? It was amazing how it affected just so many people in Kansas City.
That was the nice thing about the way Dayton Moore built that ball club, that a lot of people want to be the Tampa Bay Rays or the Oakland A's because they win, but they also sell off all the players, and they go through a lot of transition and turnover, which is one way to do it. And so I understand that it crashed and burned after that point, but Dayton Moore really built a culture where there was a love affair between the fan base and the team, because they'd seen Eric Hosmer drafted in 08 and then come up and, struggle, but then eventually climb the mountaintop. They saw a young Salvador Perez. They saw Alex Gordon struggle, get sent down, change positions, and then hit that iconic Game-1 home run against the Mets. And so there's that connection with the fan base that there isn't in Oakland or in Tampa or in those cities where they trade players away. Now, as we know, the Royals in that Dayton Moore era only made the playoffs twice. So is that the way to do it? I think you can make an argument both ways. As a Kansas City kid, I'm kind of glad we had that way so that there was that connection to bring baseball back to this city.
Well, look at what the Dodgers, we just ended up taking one game out of a 3-game series with them. But, look at what the Dodgers, the vaunted Los Angeles Dodgers, all the money and support and the history that the Dodgers have. since Kansas City won their World Series in 2015, and the Dodgers, don't they, if my memory serves correct, don't the Dodgers and Royals have as many World Series?
Yep.
Since 2015. I mean, you think about that.
Well, even back before that, because it had been a while before the Dodgers even won that. So, no, it's and hopefully we can experience that Blue October once again. All right, Brad, we are running out of time here, so I'm going to skip the colleges. Who knows when we'll have Brad on again, because I know you've got some cool experiences. He was down in San Antonio for KU. But
oh my gosh, the Final Fours, yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of stories.
I would be remiss, though, if I did not mention our Nebraska connections. Let out a Go Big Red, because Brad, as you mentioned, from Ord, Nebraska, worked in Lincoln.
There's a lot of Husker fans in Kansas City.
Yeah, and that's part of why I mentioned, because on a regular basis, we don't talk Huskers, but I at least want to give Husker fans their love today. My family's from Nebraska. My dad from Scotts Bluff, went to Kearney State, and then taught at Grand Island Northwest, and then I worked 2 years in Lincoln. I loved my time in Nebraska. Brad, you're a proud Cornhusker. Why is there no place like Nebraska? I know that's the phrase, that's the song, but why do you love the Cornhusker State?
It is such. Well, I was born and raised there, so I'm a homer, obviously. But what's pretty cool about Nebraska is that people don't, or at least from where. Now, again, I was born or raised right in the center of the state, small, agriculture-centered town of 2,400. But people don't care who you are, what you've been, what you've done. You're kind of valued for what you've done. It's what have you done for me lately, and so Nebraska is just, I don't know. That's an odd way to describe my state, but it's a collection. It's a small state. It's a lot like. It's a lot like Western Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, a lot
of farmers, a lot of ranchers.
On Husker football game days, the third largest city in the state is Memorial Stadium.
Yeah.
Technically, I think. I don't know if that.
No, that is true.
That's still true.
That's still true. Yeah,
and that's what I would say is just the fan support. When I was there,
it's crazy.
I covered a Nebraska volleyball national championship where they got to the national championship game, and of course now we've seen them sell out a football stadium for that volleyball team. And I just think there's a lot of pride in that state that I think is similar to Kansas City. I'm proud to be a Kansas Cityan, and all my friends and family are proud to be a Kansas Cityan. And I think Nebraska is very similar in that.
It's the same. It's the same. Just like they say, Omaha is a smaller version of Kansas City, and it really is. Omaha's a beautiful city.
Yeah.
I lived there for 10 years, but the strange thing that Nebraska has done that most other college programs and really sports franchises have not been able to do is when you have bad times and you've got bad seasons.
Yeah.
Generally, people stop caring and stop going to the games. Now, there have been some sellouts that some rich donors came in and bought 6,000 seats because it wasn't going to be a sellout. So that I understand that, but still, to go to I'll probably go to the first game of the season in Lincoln this year. I think they play UTEP. And it will be sold out, and all of Lincoln will just be going nuts. And everyone's saying, "Is this the year?"
Yeah. And the mood of the city is very dependent. I know that's some people that I worked in Lincoln. They're like, I didn't come here as a Husker fan, but I want the Huskers to win just because the whole town's going to be depressed on Saturday or Sunday if they lose. And so when I was there, I was there for the first 2 years of the Scott Frost era, so I covered Adrian Martinez. But that wasn't as bad as the third and fourth and fifth years of the Scott Frost era. I got there, and optimism was pretty high that first year. They finished the year strong, and the second year up and down. The second year, they started in the top 25, actually.
They did.
Everyone
thought Scott Frost was the golden boy hire, and boy, it became pretty apparent that it was just, what's he doing?
And I honestly don't. I mean, I hear things obviously, but I still think the way it crashed and burned to the point where they didn't even get to a bowl game in the era, I still don't understand, because I think he came in with great credentials, great ties to the state, and it obviously just didn't work. And I root for Huskers' success because of the state. They deserve it.
Hey, do you know the last time, this is how bad it's been, the last time Nebraska went to a bowl game
2016,
was 2016.
Right? Holiday Bowl,
it's been
Tennessee,
that
I think.
long. I will say, I think Matt Rule is turning them around.